Alrighty, so let's see here. We finished off sort of redoing the inventory system in the last video. And what I kind of want to do is I kind of want to redo how I'm doing the client presentation. So let's see here. Let me go ahead and get the server up. Alright, and we're going to have to look into how sync vars work so that I can synchronize data from the server to the client. Like, for instance, for what item is on the ground. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's look here. Let me open up the server. Alright, let's get the server opened. I'm actually going to reorganize this a bit. I don't know. So on the client side, the only thing we're responsible for doing is displaying the visuals for the game. Okay, so on the client side, I think I'm actually gonna delete this world item script here. And I'm gonna delete this item class. We're gonna recreate this. I don't think I need to be a data structure like that. So let me go ahead and see here. We have our global items. So here we have world items. We have our global items. And instead of actually just gonna change this to a probably, let's go ahead and, whoops. Let's go ahead and call this player prefab scripts player info. We'll call this inventory. Or let's just call it item actually. Item. And inside there are going to be all the items that you can actually have in your inventory. Alright, so here we have items. Or here we're going to call it item models. Alright, so this will be the item models. So like when you drop an item on the floor, you can pick it up and so forth. As well as this will be the item that you equip. Okay, so we'll have item models. And then here we're also going to have a folder for, we'll say, item icons. Alright, and that will actually be the visual display that you'll see in the inventory. So let's go ahead and we have our sword here. So when we hover over the sword, I want to get properties from it. For instance, I want to know that it's a sword, right? And I'm trying to think here how the best way to do this. The network behavior, yeah, okay. So here's how we're going to do this. So we have our item models, right? And let's see here. We are going to have, we have our item icons, and here, all right, we're going to have an item icon, okay? So here, we're going to have a C# script. And what we're going to do here is, check this out, check this scenario out. You see an object on the floor, okay? It's a 3D model of a sword. You pick it up, it then becomes an icon in the inventory, and then you have the ability to drop that item, and it becomes a object again, right? A 3D object again. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just create an item class right here. We're going to call this item, okay? And this item is going to be a network behavior that's going to be attached to every item. All right, so let's go ahead and open this up. Open that. Alrighty, and let's go ahead and take a look at this here. Instead of using mono behavior, we're going to go ahead and use Unity Engine.networking. And then we're going to go ahead and replace this with network behavior. Okay. Alright, so network behavior is going to allow me to sync this class across the network onto an existing, onto a replica. Alright, so this item behavior is going to go on every object. So for instance, we're going to go ahead and put it on the sword. Alright, and basically what's going to happen is every item has a few properties. Okay, for starters, every item has public string item name. Okay, so public string item name equals, we'll just set that. So every item has a name. Every item has an ID. Every item has, and this is just actually what I want to display. So what do I want to display to the user? I want to display the name. I don't really think I need the ID. I want to display the public string name. Actually, I will need the ID because that's how I'm actually going to populate possibly the UI icons. Maybe, we'll see. So we have an item, public string name, we have public int ID, we have public string description. Are there any other attributes to an item? We have name, ID, description. Let's see here. Oh, okay, yeah, here. We have public sprite using unityengine.ui. Alright, every item will host a sprite. So here we'll say public sprite. Oh, hold on. Come on. There we go. Every sprite has a sprite icon. And then here, every item has a game object prefab for 3D model. Because that 3D model is going to be what you're going to equip and what you're going to like drop on the floor or how you're going to pick it up. It's going to be a game object. And once you pick that object up, we're going to use the icon to represent it in your inventory. So every item has a name, an ID, a description, an icon, and a game object. Game object, we'll call this model prefab. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at our example here of the item for sword. Okay, so here on the sword here, you're going to see that we can go ahead and define the sword as it is, but I think what we're going to do, somehow I want to, although I suppose I could define this locally in the client, although I should, actually no, I'm not going to do it locally in the client because you as a player could potentially modify this. So we're going to define it in the server. Hey, how's it going, code? So let's go ahead and check this out. So here we have a name, an ID, description. I can give it an icon, and I can give it a model prefab. Alright, so the model prefab, the way we're going to structure this, and let me go ahead and get like an item icon in here that we can kind of assign this. If we look in, I think I got rid of it. I had an RPG asset icon, but let's go ahead and just grab off of Google real quickly a sprite icon. So let's go ahead and do, why didn't you use scriptable objects for a database? Because I need it to be done over the network. I need it more secure. And I want to be able to modify it whenever I need to. So I'm using MySQL instead. Let's see here. And I need it to scale. Scriptable objects can't really scale. They're good for like local saving and persistent data. That's not really what I'm looking for. Let's see. I need a sword sprite icon. 64 by 64 PNG. Alright, perfect. Check this out. Alright, let's get this sword right here. Perfect. Alright, we're going to say save image as. This is going to be our sword. And we're going to go ahead and put this here in our 2D MMO client project. Whoops. Game. Alright, put it in there. Alright, so here we go. So we got this sword here, and we'll go ahead and put this in the item icons. Oh man, that sucks. Oh, weird. Okay, it didn't download as like a PNG for some reason. Oh, here we go. All files. .png. Okay, it's a sword. Okay. There we go. Delete that. Alright, so check it out. So we have this sword icon, okay? Alright, so here's our sword icon, and our sword has a name, an ID, a description, an icon, which will get assigned, so it's going to have an assign that, and then a model prefab, which would be assigned itself here. Okay? So we're going to assign this all through the server using sync vars. So what's important here is that this item script, alright, is a network behavior. So when we go back to the server here, alright, and it's on a game object that we're instantiating. So now let's go to the server. And if we check here on our inventory item and database, let's see here, we have world items. Actually, I don't know if I like that either. Here, hold on. So here we have our server, we have our player, we have our world items. I'm going to go ahead and just call this item. We have global items. And what did I call that over here? Oh yeah, okay, item, and then item icons and item models. So we're going to do the same thing. So here, we'll go ahead and call this item models. And item icons. Okay. Hey code. Yeah, so this is actually a 3D project now. Yep. I was going to do it in 2D, but after spending several hours searching for completed art packs to create something, I just couldn't find anything that was super useful or good or anything like that when it comes to 2D art. So there's a lot more variety and selection when it comes to 3D. So I'm working with a level designer to put together the first starter town. And once we get that in, we'll be able to start developing out a 3D MMO. Alright, so here we go. We have our sword, we have our item model, right? And over here, we have our item models. Alright, so every item, item models, scripts, world item, public class world item, network behavior, yada yada. I don't like this script. I don't know why I'm doing this. Okay, yeah. So this world item script, I'm gonna actually redo this a bit. I don't really like this, but so this script is very important. All right, so here we have item models. All right, and then we have an item class here. So ideally, I'm gonna have an item class over here, which defines an item, which is I think what we already have here. Yeah, we have item database. Yeah, so this is what defines the item. Okay. What we need to do is we have the world item. So this would actually be, let me see here. This is going on the server side of the object. So what would we call this? So like when you see the sword on the ground on server side, what would we call this? We would call this call it item sync, I guess, for now. By the way, if I understood, you're going to add items from database script like you showed in the last video, but is there a way to load item from database MySQL when needed? Yes, absolutely. So right now everything is sort of done on the server, but what I am going to do is make it so I can create new items from the website. And then what's going to happen is the server will download those from the database and then populate the new items. And anytime there's new icons, I'll ship a new client, or I'll create an auto patcher or an client auto updater that would download the new cached images. So pretty simple. We'll probably experiment with asset bundles when we do that. Let's see here. MySQL when needed. All right, so we have this item sync script, and we're going to go ahead and put this on our sword. So here we have an item sync. Let's open that up. Called item sync. All right, and this is a network behavior, and it has here an item ID and a public class item. Okay, so let's just go ahead and run this and see what we have here, just so we can get caught up. All right, so we'll go ahead and run the server. Let's see. Hey, thanks for joining, MLG. See you, man. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and run the server. The server is on. Let's go ahead and connect. Okay, we'll go ahead and log in here. Yeah, I'll be streaming. My goal is to stream the entire development process for this, and I try to update the descriptions with what the stream covered. But yeah, I will be streaming how we create an auto patcher and client auto updater. We'll be creating a client launcher and everything like that. Alrighty, so check this out. on the server, we spawn this sword, okay? Now, it doesn't have that script. Oh, I didn't attach it. All right, and if you look here on the game, we spawned a sword, and it has here an item script. So what should happen now is that sword should be populated with all sorts of definitions from the server, okay? So as you can see, that's what should happen. All right, so how can we make this work? We need to head on over here. Let's get that script on here. So here's our sword. Let's add the item sync. And the item sync is a network behavior. So they sync across the network. And you'll see here, and actually I just want to show you guys something. When we run this, the way we created this, right, is the server's connected. Let's log in here, Pied Piper. Okay, so you'll see here that our world object is empty, but if I hit the space key, I don't even have that functioning yet. Right. Alright, 1 second here. Yeah, okay, so right now we have an empty object in the scene. Here we have our sword, so we need to redefine this. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, weird. Did it take the value of this guy? How did it become empty? I do not know. Hold on, let me look at something. Item equals first or for default. Oh, okay, so it defaulted to null because I must not have specified an ID for it. Oh, okay, yeah, that's why. All right, check this out. I'm going to change the item ID here to like a 1, which is our sword. 0 is null, so now it's a 1. So you'll see here, world object, it's a sword. So sword 1, this is a sword. And if we come over here, when we log in, Pied Piper, test. Alright, we have our sword here, and you'll see that our sword still says name, ID, description, blank, right? Well, what it should say is the definition of this item. So this is where the item sync comes in, okay? So the network identity, the reason why these guys spawn together is because of this network identity. This network identity allows us to communicate across the client and server scripts. So what we need to do is get the definition now. I want to know the item ID, the name, and the description. And then using those, I can populate the 3D model, prefab, as well as the name, as well as the icon. Okay, so let's figure out how we're going to do that. It is going to be client-sided, I believe. So here, when we create this item, right? So when we create an item, we can go ahead and call void start or void awake of that item. I believe we can say something like, I think I can do like this dot network identity. Network view, the network view attached to the game object. I don't think it's a network view. Hold on. Alright, let's look into sync var. Alright, here we go. As a little bit of background, it's common for network games to have a server that owns objects and clients that need to be told when data in those objects change. For example, in a combat game, the health of the players need to be visible to all players. This requires a member variable on a script class that is sent to all the clients when it changes on the server. Below is a simple combat script. So here we take damage. If amount is less than whatever health, alive is false, health equals 0. When a player on the server takes damage, all the players in the game need to be told about the new health value for that player. This seems simple, but the challenge here is to make the system invisible to developers writing the code, efficient in terms of CPU, memory, and bandwidth usage. Alright, wants to use. So some concrete goals for the system. Alright, minimize memory usage by not keeping shadow copies of variables. Minimize bandwidth usage by only sending states that have changed. Minimize CPU usage by not constantly checking to see if a state has changed. Alright, work with all supported Unity, yada yada yada. Legacy networking system. The existing UNet system has a reliable delta compressed type of synchronization that performs state synchronization by providing an on-serialized network view hook. This function is invoked. Hey, how's it going, Troopins? This function is invoked on objects with the network view component, and the serialization code written by the developer writes to or reads from the byte stream provided. Are then cached by the engine, and if the next time the function is called the results doesn't match the cache version, the object is considered dirty and the state is sent to clients. Take an example of serialization function look like this. So float horizontal input, stream, yada yada. Alright, code generation for sync vars. As the UNet team worked on the new state synchronization system, the system we came up with was a code generator driven by custom attributes. In user code, this looks like, so here, so I want this, so everything that I want synced across the network. So sync var, sync var. Alright? So we will go over here and use these attributes. So I want the name to be synced. Is an attribute that can be put on a member variable of a network behavior guide. These variables will have their values synchronized from the server to clients in the game that are on the ready state. Alright, so sync var the name. Sync var the ID. And sync var the description. This way there's no possible way to cheat because all this information comes from the server. Sync var the description. Alright, we got those. Let's see, this new custom attribute tells the system that the health and alive member variables need to be synchronized. Now, the developer doesn't need to write a serialization function since the code generator has the custom attribute data and it can generate perfect serialization and unserialization with the right ordering and types. This generated function looks something like this. So they do this for us. Since this overrides a virtual function on the UNet behavior class, when the game object is serialized, the script variables will also be automatically serialized. Then they will be unpacked at the other end with a matching code generated unserialization function. So there is no chance of mismatches, and the code updates automatically when a new sync var variable is added. Alright, awesome. But there are still some issues here. This function sends all the state all the time. It is not incremental, so if a single variable in an object changes, the entire object state would be sent. Also, how do we know when this serialization function should be called? It is not efficient to send states when nothing has changed. We wrestled with using properties and dirty flags to do this. It seemed natural that property could wrap each sync var variable and set dirty flags when something changes. The approach was partially successful. Having a bit mask of dirty flags lets the code generator yada yada yada. Let's see, the generated code looks something like that. So, okay, this is just to do custom stuff, don't care about that. Let's see, in this way the unserialization function can read the dirty flags mask and only unserialized variables written to the stream. Say we try wrapping the sync var member variable. Public int health sync. We get return health set dirty flags health equals. Alright, this does a job but has the wrong name. The take damage function from above uses health not health sync, so it bypasses the property. We can use the health sync property directly since it doesn't even exist until code generation happens. It could be made into two-phase process where the code generation step happens when the user does. Enter mono CSOL. Let me see here. Alright, let's look at this. Alright, so here we have setting the value of sync var marks it as dirty, so it will be sent to clients at the end of the current frame. Only simple values can be marked as sync vars. The type of the sync var variable cannot be from an external DL or assembly. Okay. Structs containing allowable types. Okay, interesting. Structs containing allowable types. We don't have any crazy types, so we might actually be able to send in an entire item. The hook item can be used to specify a function to be called when the sync var changes value on the client. Okay, we're not changing value on the client. So here, let's look at this. Here's my item. String name, ID, description. Now what makes it get synced on the server though? Let's see here. Sync var client server. Trying to figure out why my variables aren't syncing from the server to the client. I've watched them change on the server, but they're not changing on the client. Player, here we go. We have sync var, and then here we have a command next move. Select move. let's see, more detail extension. If I run the host inside Unity and client, if the value is changing on the server but not synced on the client, my best guess is that maybe it's not getting dirty bit properly. You can troubleshoot this two ways. Strip code down to bare bones without network animated or transconnect. I know the additional manually set dirty. Looks like it should work. You could put a debug.log. Okay. I think this might work because they're already connected to the network identity components, but we will see. I'm not 100% convinced. I may need to ring a buddy of mine who can help us. Let's see. So here's the server running. Let's go to the client running. Okay, we'll go ahead and Pied Piper. Okay, so we created a sword over here. This is a sword, and if we look at the game sword, alright, so no, it did not. Alright, no kidding. Alright, so let's see here. Give me 1 second. So let me look here in this item. When this item gets spawned, there might be something else I have to do because I'm not using just the typical combined project. My server is separated from my client, so I think that's what's causing the problem here. Let's see here. On awake, I want to go ahead and say item dot network identity. No. Actually, hold on. Let's try this. Let me see here what I can get from the identity. Network identity. Dot. That's a unique identifier for this particular object that sits. Oh, here. Used. Okay, hold on. Used for tracking objects between networked clients and the server. So what if I did this? Get component network identity dot get component. I don't know if that has to be the same name. It might. Let me see here. Let's see. Sync var Unity 5 networking. SyncVar only sends messages from the server to the client. You need command that runs on the server. Oh, so maybe I need to do a command to populate the item? You confirm this is also true? Yes, I tested it on my computer and checked online. Let me see here. Alright, this was a huge help. Was using command methods and SyncVars, but hadn't used RPC methods. Refer Unity document word host. So we have item sync here. Shoot, it gets so difficult when you have a separate project. Let me see here. Sync var unit separate project. Unity client server separate different in state. Alright, hold on. Unity client server separate different in state synchronization. Why you don't separate the server and client project? Have you ever thought about having only one project with shared code? Awful. No. The server just handles connection messages and send back to client. Doesn't need to do it. Let's see here. Sync animations. How to sync arrays list using SyncVar. Look. Alright, so here. Shoot, I'm trying to think. So they get spawned together. How do I access that object? Let's see, network identity. Let's check that out. Alright, with the server authoritative system of the Unity networking system, networked objects with network identity must be spawned by the server, which it is. This causes them to be assigned a network instance ID and be created on clients that are connected to the server. Scene objects are treated a bit differently than dynamically instantiated objects. These objects are all present in the scene on both client and server. However, when building the game, all scene objects with network identity are disabled. When the client connects to the server tells the client which scene objects should be enabled. And what their most up-to-date state information is through spawn messages. This ensures the client will not contain objects placed at now incorrect locations. The server-only checkbox will ensure this particular object will not be spawned or enabled on clients. The local player authority setting allows this object to be controlled by the client that owns it. The local player object on that client has authority over it. This is used by other components such as network transform. This component contains tracking information like what scene ID, network ID, and asset ID the object has been assigned. The scene ID is valid in all scene objects with the network identity component. The network ID is the ID of this particular object. There might be multiple objects instantiated of a particular object type, and the network ID is used to identify which object, for example, a network update should be applied to. Okay, that might be what we're looking for. The asset ID refers to what source asset the object was instantiated from. This is used internally when a particular object prefab is spawned over the network. This information is exposed in the preview panel at the bottom of the inspector. At runtime, there's more information to display here. A disabled network behavior is displayed non-bold. So here, local. Alright, and then properties. Let's see here. Alright, so put a network identity component of prefabs that will be spawned, and network identity is required for every object that is networked. Alright, so maybe I need to use local player authority. So let's try that. Let me see something here. We have inside here this sword. We'll go ahead and say it's local player authority. Server only cannot be set for local player authority. Alright, and item sync, let's go ahead and call, I don't think it needs to be the same name. It shouldn't be, at least. Let me see here. How sync bar works, unit. Take damage, health, minus equals amount. The state of sync vars is applied to objects on clients before onStart client is called. So the state of the object is guaranteed to be up to date. Sync vars can be basic types. Sync vars are sent as monolithic updates, not incremental changes. Okay. Sync var updates are sent automatically by the server when the value of a sync var changes. There is no need to perform any manually dirtier fields for sync vars. Alright, sync lists are like sync vars, but they are lists of values instead of individual values. Yada yada. Sync list contains our initial status updates. Sync list struct. So here, ID, name, timer. Huh. Alright, let me see here. On the server. Alright, so on the server, each network behavior has a dirty mask. This mask is available inside unserialized as sync var dirty bits. Each sync var in a network behavior script. Let's see here. Hold on. Okay, so changing each sync var in a network behavior script is assigned a bit in the dirty mask. Changing the value of sync vars causes the bit for that sync to be sent to be set. Alternatively, calling set dirty bit writes directly to the dirty mask. Network identity objects are checked on the server as part of its update loop. If any network behaviors on a network identity are dirty, then an update vars packet is created. The update vars packet is populated by calling onserialize on each network behavior on the object. That are not dirty, write a 0 to the packet for their dirty bits. Network behaviors that are dirty with their dirty mask, then the values of the sync vars. If onserialize returns true for a network behavior with the dirty mask, the update vars. Alright, on the client, the update vars packet is received for an object. The onDeserialize function is called. Each network behavior script on the object reads a dirty, the dirty. If there are sync var hook functions, these are invoked. So for this script, we have int1, int2, my string. The generated onSerialize function is something like this. And the onDeserialization. The network behavior has a base class that also has a serialization function. Alright, I don't think I have to override these. It should automatically do something like that. Okay, yeah, these are... Yeah, okay. So the reason why you can override them, right, is because it has a network writer. So when something changes, so maybe I can actually do this. Let's see here. So on serialize, on deserialize, I wanted to use the reader. Otherwise, if it's not the initial state, then we do all this good stuff. Okay, let's try this. Let's overwrite the onDeserialize method for this guy. Let's see if that works. Can I do something like that? Let's see here. Public override onDeserialize takes a network reader. Alright, and what I want to do is we are going to say shoot, we might have a problem here actually. Okay, I think these do need to be identical. I'm almost positive this script needs to be named item sync as well. So let's see here. What did I put on this? I put just a script called item. Let's call that item sync. Okay, item sync. Okay, and let's go ahead and test this out here. So here on the client, we will have a method to override this. What do you have in this project so far? What's up, Pirate? We have the fully integrated login system with vBulletin forms. We did all the PHP, the MySQL database creation. We have the inventory working on the server side. What we're doing now is, and we have the chat system working. What we're doing now is we are getting the inventory system to work across the network. Alright, so right now the way this game works is the player gets instantiated on the server, its inventory is hosted on the server, its item database and everything like that is hosted on the server. The client is just the representation of what the player has. Alright, so what we need to do is when I spawn in a sword for the player to pick up, I need the attributes to carry over from the server to the client. And the reason why we're doing that is so that you as a player can't go in and change the values of the item. They're set by the server. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's see here. I want to try doing this deserialization thing. Public override. It's not giving me the tooltip for those things anymore. Oh, here, you know what? Probably have to clean this solution here. Yeah, I didn't like that. Alright, hold on. Let me get rid of that. Item sync. Log, open that up. Thanks, B. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and let's do this. Public override deserialize. Alright, I think it's okay to call the base one. I don't really care. We are going to say here, attempting to deserialize. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically take my item sync. Alright, I'm going to say item sync, right here, we're going to say var item defs, so like item definition, right? Equals the reader, and the reader is going to be item sync. And the goal here is that it would then match this class. I need to just look at what the proper syntax is for that. Let's see here. So on deserialize, we do a reader.readPackedUint. This.int equals, oh, okay, yeah, here, we can do it like that. That works. We have our reader. I'm going to put that to the side for a second here. So item def, so actually we're not going to do that. Yeah, okay. So here I'm actually just going to say this dot name is going to equal the reader dot read string. Reads a string from the stream. All right. And it has to be in the exact order. So I'm going to do the name, ID, and then the description. All right, and I might need to cast this as a string. I believe I do. All right, so this dot name equals the reader.string. We're going to say this dot, crap, what's it called? This dot ID equals the reader, whoops, the reader dot unpacked, or read packed. Yeah, read packed uint 32. All right, so the ID we pass in here. Yeah, and that needs to be turned into an int, which is fine. And then here we're going to say this dot description will equal a string from the reader dot read string. All right, so this hopefully might work. It might actually just set the property for us. It'd be nice if it did. We'll be able to test this by changing the value on the server as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start the server. I'm going to start the client. Alrighty, let's see here. Alright, here we go. We can log in. Okay, so here we go, inventory initialized. If we look here, we have our sword. Now, nothing has changed on it. However, I'm curious to know what happens if I were to change it over here. Alright, so say I change this guy. Say I change his item ID to 2. And like the sword to sword 1, ID to 2, and this is a sword. So ideally, every time I do that change, it should be sent to the client. Which clearly just isn't happening. So let's see why that is. I shouldn't have to do a custom serializer, I don't think. The first time an object is sent to a client, send all the data and no dirty bit. So on serialize, maybe I do actually. Maybe I need to overwrite the on serialize. Huh, let me see here. Send all the data. If a network behavior has a base class that also has a serialization functions, the base class functions should also be called. Note that update var packets created for object states. Huh. Shoot. Let's see here. We are looking for... Hey, what's up, Ray? How's it going? Alright, so let's see here. We want to sync var with separate projects. Damn it, this would be much easier if it was just in the same project, but because we have it separated, I think there's an extra layer of complexity here. Let's see here. I want to create a simple demo cube in the middle of a plane that changes colors when you click it. Alright, let's see here. On touch event, you have a sync var for the cube color, a sync var for the object ID, and we call this command here. Assign client authority, connection to client, RPC update cube. Use a client RPC function to paint the object on all clients. Okay, interesting. GameObject.getComponent material.color. Okay, we might have to actually set it up similar to how they're doing it here. I was hoping not, but maybe. Is this still part of the 2D series, or are you doing the same thing but with 3D? Hey, right. So yeah. So this was initially designed to be like 2D and kind of do a whole Stardew Valley, but with 2D. But after several hours of research, I couldn't find an art pack that I really enjoyed working with. And when it comes to 3D, there's just more variety and more. The art is just more accessible. So because we're so early in development, I think I've gone ahead and officially made it 3D. And I'm working with a level designer who's going to kind of bring the starter world to life. So when that's finished, we'll be able to hit the ground running and get player movement and start working on skills and all that good stuff. But yeah, it is officially going to be 3D unless someone can find me an amazing 2D art pack for an MMO. It's pretty hard to find online. Alright, so let's see here. Damn, I wish my buddy was online right now. He just got done doing some sync var stuff. But let's see here. So I need to get messages across. So we can send messages, right? I know how to send a message from the client to the server. What I need to do though is it's not really efficient for every item that I drop in the world to send one of these network objects, right? This is more so for things like chat message, the login request. We're going to do it for, this is more so for like sending over client information or anything like that. I mean, I could do it through, a sync var, I guess, or I mean, I could do it this way, but I feel like it's just not the way to do it. I feel like these chat messages are meant for specific messages that the server needs to handle. No worries, I know you wrote that this isn't meant to be a tutorial, but I'm learning lots by watching all those streams. Awesome, dude. Yeah, I'm glad. Code, are you going to make WoW-like player and camera movement or RuneScape? So that also I haven't decided yet. When we actually get our player and our level created, I'll probably decide it there. At the current moment, I'm probably going to go towards a more Diablo-style, RuneScape-style movement system. And I also haven't decided how I'm going to do the movement. You know, if I'm going to do the movement point and click, where you click on the ground, your player moves there, or if I'm going to allow WSAD key movement. Either way, how I do it, it's going to be complicated because we are going to set up a nav mesh that's going to run on the server to avoid cheating. So we got a bunch of cool stuff that we're going to be doing with that. Let's see here. So here, Silence, I was able to get this to work thanks to the Stack Overflow post. Okay, let's see. How do I sync non-player game object properties in Unity 5? Okay, so that sounds exactly like sort of what we want to do, right? So let's go ahead and read this. I'm working on and learning some basics of Unity UNet. He made a simple 3D game where you go around, change colors. But I want to make it multiplayer now. I'm having a lot of trouble figuring out how to send the changes over the network so all players can see a single player's color change. Part of the issue is that it has been difficult to find the answer. Let's see here. So the main question is, how do I network non-player game object property changes? Color, shape, size, etc. I've had many different versions, so I'll just post the current one. Let's see. So he is synchronizing the object color and the object identity. He has a client RPC and a command. Okay. So I've tried a bunch more solutions yet. I feel like it is a very simple thing I want to do, but I haven't come across syncing non-player game objects. Alright, here we go. I found my answer, and it wasn't very difficult, as almost every single question posted examples that I could find was about player objects and non. Alright, here we go. So I needed to use the assign client authority function, which I had tried a couple of times, but wasn't using it correctly. Here's the function in C# script to apply to the player. sync var private. He has a network identity object not ID. If is local player, check if painting. Check if painting. If is local player, that's a useless check right there because you can only get in here if you are the local player. If you hit the mouse button down, you cast array. The object ID equals the object you hit. The object color equals the color of the object, and then you call command paint. And you call command. This gets run on the server. Object net assign client authority, RPC. Okay, and then I guess. Oh, okay, right. So the way this works, and this example here is only for local players, or it's only for if your projects are shared. So it doesn't help us here, but it does give us a better understanding. This command is called by a local user, and it's run on the server, and then the server will call this function on every client. So essentially what's going to happen here, and the reason why this doesn't work is I'll show you. Watch what happens here when I delete. We get to avoid this, and the reason why we get to avoid this is because I've separated out the client-server project. If we look here on the player, you'll see here I have a sword, and when I delete the sword from the server, it's automatically going to do whatever I want to on the client. It's already synchronized in that way. I don't need to have the player call something to affect everyone else, because the player has no actual real abilities. Everything is done server side. The player makes requests, the servers handle it. So on this object here, you can see here it's already networked. If I change the position on the server of this object, and actually here's a good example to show you how this client server works. Everything is handled through the server. So if I go on this sword here and I change it to like a -2, it will happen locally. Whoops, it will happen locally, but on the server is where it actually matters, and that's where it's going to show for everyone. So you'll see here it's set to -0.1, and if I actually change this to -0.12, or let's go and say negative, let's go and make it like -1 on the server. Oh, you know what? That may have actually just broke the entire synchronization here, now that I think about it. I think I did. 1 second. Let me go ahead and rerun this client server project. Alright, run the server, run the client. Sweet. Get these up. Alright, let's go and log in here. Admin. Alright, so we got our sword there, and if I move the sword on the server to like a 1, it's actually not updating its positions. Oh, local. Oh, okay, hold on. I think I gave that object to the player. I don't think I want to do that. Hold on. I'm going to change the sword properties here from local authority. I'm not going to do any of that stuff anymore. I think it needs to be server only. So I'm going to save this, rerun the server. Let's go ahead and log back in. Game object player is missing. Okay, what the hell happened to the game object player? Okay, that did some weird stuff. I'm not really sure what the hell just happened there. Alright, hold on. Alright, change this to just neither again. We'll have to look at how to properly use this network identity. Run the server, run the client. So here, admin. Alright, here's our sword. Alright, and the sword is also in our server, and if I change this to like a -1. Oh, right. Duh. Give me a second. Okay, that's why. I don't have the transform on it. I was wondering what the hell was going on with it. Here, I can add a network transform, which we need. We are going to want that because we're going to eventually, right, when you drop the item, we're going to have to set the position of the item. So here we're going to add a network transform. Alright, we should be good. Let's run the server, run the client. Logins Piper. Alright, here's our sword. And if I move the sword on the server, like if I set to -1, that does not want to work still. I do not know why. Let me see here. Why did that break? Index out of range. Network reader read byte out of range. Oh, okay. Check it out. Okay, so that's interesting. It's actually... Okay, weird. Oh, here we go. Attempting to deserialize. Okay, so that worked. It started sending messages over... Okay, so hold on. Let me remove this network transform here. Let's redo a lot of that. The item has a network identity, an item sync script. Okay, I don't have a network transform on here. I should probably add that. Let's see here. We'll save this. Network identity is good. Let's go to the server. And on our sword, we have our network transform, network identity. All right, let's go ahead and test this out. Server's running, right? Server's on. Let's connect. All right, we're gonna go ahead and say username is admin. Okay, so it says index out of range, attempting to deserialize. Okay, so that's good. That means that this is actually working. Attempting to deserialize, but it's just not getting the name, ID, and description for some reason. So the question is why, right? So it says read string too long. Hold on. Excuse me. All right, let's see here. So index out of range exception. It says here item sync. What does this say? Yeah, hey, what's up, Game Freaks? Yeah, the struggle to get rid of errors. It's awful. Index out of range exception. Let's say too long. Read string at network reader 301. Item sync on deserialize. Reader initial state at item sync line 27. So it's getting all screwed up on line 27, which is the assigning of the name. Okay? So here's what's happening. This network reader, this on deserialize, I figured this wasn't going to work because this is the entire object that's getting serialized. Like if I remove this, it's happening in the background. Now what I want to do is I want to override it so that I could custom populate the information from the server. However, it doesn't seem that it's gonna let me do that. So we need to go back to the drawing board just a bit. I am going to remove this implementation. So I'm not going to do that. Let's save this. My idea scenario, right, is I have the sword here, and I know it's a network object. And let me go ahead and just demonstrate how I know it's a networked object for you guys. Let's go ahead and run the server again. Alright, we run the game. Alright, the server has a world object on the floor of a sword. And if we come over here to the client, let's go ahead and log in. Alright, and now we're getting this. Why are we getting that error? Oh, it's like, did it not save? Did I not save? It's a good chance I didn't save it. No, I did. Let me see here. Refresh. Usually I think it's a mono develop thing or Visual Studios. Hold on, let me just rebuild the client solution. Okay. The client should recognize that we no longer have that. Good. And if we click on the sword, it still has the item sync. Okay. Let's go ahead and test this out. Run the server. Oops, server's already running. Right. Alright, server's on. So let's go and log in. And we are still getting this. I have no idea why. Let's see here. What does it say? It says item sync.onDeserialize. Network identity on update vars. Reader boolean initial state. Client apply spawn payload. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't like me, but I like it better than Monobop. Huh. Alright, so it looks like here, hold on, this network client. Alright, this looks like it's having issues with the object components. So give me 1 second here. Let's take a look at our sword on the client. So here I have my network identity and my item sync script, and then I added this network transform. And on the server, we added the network identity, item script, and network transform. Huh, do not know why it's giving me those problems. Hold on, let me see something. And then that's weird, it's still trying to do that read string. It's like it still thinks it's there. Item sync.onDeserialize. Vector 3 position, client scene apply spawn payload. Alright, let me try something here on the server. Here's our object. Okay, weird. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove from the sword the network transform for now. And I'm going to come on over to our server. I'm also going to remove the network transform here. Save. Let's run the client. Start up the server. Okay, Pied Piper. Okay, so now we got no more errors. It looks like that network transform was screwing things up. Not really sure how or why. But we will need to fix that eventually when we drop the item. I need to be able to set the position. So let's see here. Here's what I would love to be able to do, right? So both these guys are networked, and they get spawned together. That tells me they're sort of networked. And if we look here on the network information, you can see the asset IDs match, which is how they get spawned together. If we click on the sword over here, you'll see here this asset ID matches the asset ID on the server. So there's got to be a way for me to be able to say, like, get on this asset on the server. I want to do like a get component, and I want to grab the item sync from over there. Is client, is server, has authority, no. And then over here, what's it say? Is server, yes. Has authority, yes. Is local player, no. Network observers. Hold on, who do we got in here? Okay, so and here's all the people connected looking at this object. So it knows I'm the local person looking at the object. Alright, and here we have items synced. So this script is networked. It's just how do I like actually, make it work? So let's see if I can find something. So what I'm trying to do is sync up the data. So you'll see here on the server, I created I created a sword for the player to pick up. All right, and what I want to do on this client is I want to visualize what that item is. You can see here that it did indeed spawn for the client. That's this capsule, it's our sword. However, look at the properties. The name is nothing, the ID is nothing, the description. How can I tell the player what that capsule is? I need to tell them what that is by these values. So like you'll see here, check this out. this sword, it's not even defined, right? It gets defined when I give it an item ID. So when the server spawns it into the scene, it parses the item database and it says, hey, item ID equals a sword, and it populates the sword, and this is the sword description. So what needs to happen on this client when it spawns is it needs to grab the item ID, the description, and the name value so I can display it to the user. The reason why we have to do that is so that the user can't cheat. Otherwise, the user could name that sword whatever the hell they want. But by setting it from the server, they can't do that. I control what it is and what the icon is and so forth. So let's go ahead and, man, let me see here. Sync, let's see here. Sync objects between client server, Unity 5. This is their tutorial here. All right, hold on. Let's look at this for a second. Changes to the player's current health should only be applied on the server. Okay, right. These changes are then synchronized on the clients. This is called server authority. For more information on server authority, please see the page on network system concepts. All right, so I get server authority. Let's see here. To make our current health and damage system network aware and working under server authority, we need to use state synchronization and a special member variable on network object called syncvars. Network synchronized variables, or syncvars, are indicated with the attribute syncvar. Holy crap, guys, hold on. What if on the server, what if these guys need that attribute? Like to be able to sync that, right? Because here's item sync, and technically these fields don't match. This is an item, this is a class which can't even be syncvarred. So I wonder if those fields need to match, and that would actually make a lot of sense if they did. What? Yeah, is it ready? Okay, cool. Yeah, just tell me what's ready and I'll wrap it up. Alright, so let's look here. I want to try something here with this item ID. I want to add a syncvar just to the item ID. So we're going to save this. Let's head back to our server and our client. And you'll see here on our item sync for the client, I have a syncvar over the public int ID. Okay, public int ID. And over here on the server, I might need to call this the exact same thing, so I'm going to try that. So public int ID. Alright, let's try this. Alright, let's go ahead and save this. Item sync, right? And that's what's on the, so this is the server here. And we're going to go ahead and populate. Oh no, you know what? That's not going to work. But we might still be able to make this work. Alright, hold on. I'm just gonna try this for a second here. So I'm gonna undo all this stuff because this is how I actually set the item in the server. So I want to keep all that good stuff. So here, instead, I'm gonna break this into its simple parts. So let's go ahead and just say, here we have public int ID, public string name, and public string description. Let's try this. Alright, these all match the look and feel on the client. Alright, syncvar there, syncvar there, and syncvar there. Alright, I'm just curious to see how this works. See if the Unity magic will sort of handle this for us. It'd be really nice if it did. Alright, hold on. Can't be null. On the item database here, you'll see here I have all my items. So ID 1 is a sword. So over here, can't add script item sync because the script class cannot be found. Wait, what? Dude. Ah, man. Item sync. I hate you, Mono, Visual Studios. Alrighty, here we go. Let's try this. Put it on the sword. Alright, so here we have the item, but then I also have these variables which match the these variables match what's actually on the client. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is when I define this here, we're just going to actually just go ahead and do like let's go ahead and make it a 1. I'm going to populate these through code of whatever the item actually is. All right, and if this works, we're going to have to redesign this system just a bit. So here we're going to go ahead and say item.name. Okay, yeah. We're going to say this.id equals item.id. This.name equals the item.name. And this.description equals the item.description. Alright, we'll save that. Alright, so the reason why I did that is so that at start these values would get populated. Okay. So let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to go ahead and set the ID to be a sword, which is 1. I'm going to run it. And you're going to see here that on the sword, everything got populated. Okay. So now, hopefully what would happen here, okay, is on the client, hopefully what would happen is, let's see here, is it would now be synchronized. So admin, let's see here. Let's go and log in. Alright, so it's out of range. We got an error, but it did try to synchronize. Let's take a look at it. Over here on the sword, you can see that nothing happened. So our things aren't quite syncing just right. Name, ID, description, it's the same thing over here. Name, oh no it's not, hold on. I have name, ID, description. I need to swap the order. Let's go and change that. Name, ID, description, maybe that's why. Stop that. Alright, run the client, or I'm sorry, run the server, run the client. See here. Alright, inventory is initialized, yada yada. Okay, no errors. Okay, that's a good sign, right? So let's go ahead and look at our sword over here. And check it out. We have successfully synced this item. Check it out. Name, sword, ID 1, description. This is a sword. Boom. Done. Okay, that kind of sucks though, because obviously this is not an ideal script method. I had other intentions for doing this, but this actually isn't that bad. What I've done is I've synced the properties over the network to the client, and what I can do with this is I only want to sync the information the client needs. So I can define every attribute of this item, and I only need to sync what I want the player to see visually. Alright, so this is awesome. Now what we can officially do is when I collect this object, I can hover over it and I can grab the information about this object. So I can get the name, which is a sword, its ID, the description. And what I can do with this ID is I'm going to name the icon, okay? The icon name is just going to be the ID. So here, it's going to be a 1. So item ID 1 is this sword. And then what we would do eventually is I would say, hey, sync var, item ID is this. So when you collect that item, I'm going to assign through code, like on a wake or whatever, I'm going to assign the icon of 1 through code. So find the item ID that matches. Also, corresponding to that would be the model. So we'll have to figure out that system. And ideally, the way we'll load this in is through the name. So I could actually do it too, but for the item icon, it's better to do it through that. And actually, no, I'm sorry, we'll do that too for this. So we'll actually call this, we'll actually be calling this a 1 as well. And to make it more readable for us, we can actually just name it like sword. And I can do the same thing here. And we would parse this for the int value, and that's how we would assign it. So that's probably what we're going to start looking at in the next stream. Looking at this here, let's see, 1 sword. Alright, so, and let's just go ahead and test this out again. Let's go ahead and, on the server here, let's go ahead and just change it to a, what is it? My item database here. Number 2 is a fish. So we'll go ahead and change this sword to a fish. Item ID is 2. I'm going to go ahead and run it. Alright, you're going to go ahead and see here we created the sword. Item sync, hold on. Okay, actually hold on, something's incorrect here. On the server, this should have been named, instead of sword clone, it should have been called, alright, it should have been called fish, I believe. It's a good chance this is no longer getting called for some reason. Let me see here. Item equals that. It is populated with the correct item now, as you can see. Oh, right. Although no, it did call that. Yeah, this .name equals world object item .name. I don't know why that didn't happen, but that's really strange. I'll probably fix that also in the next stream. I'll take a look at that. But as you can see here, it says fish 2, nice piece of fish. And if we head on over to our client, and let's go ahead and log in here. All right, we'll log in with admin. All right, log in. Alright, and here on our game, we have our sword, and here you can see it's a fish, item ID 2, description, nice piece of fish, and like I said, dynamically is where we're going to assign these guys. So that's working amazing. Here's what I will show you guys, just so you, if there's any new streamers here, where the current status of this project is. I'm going to go ahead and build this, get a new client going. I'm going to go to the server, I'm going to build a new server. Alright, build a new server. Go ahead and test this out and make sure everything is still functioning. Alright, so here's our server here. Actually here, we'll run that in headless mode. Alright, so here's one of our clients. And then over here, we'll log in. We'll come to the server here. Let's do a CMD. Go to the server. Alright, and we're going to run it in batch mode. Okay, we'll go ahead and spawn up another client. We'll go ahead and log in with admin. Alright, we're logged here. There's the sword in the scene. You can see it says admin. We'll go ahead and log in to admin again, and you'll see we can't do that. Alright, it's already logged in. Alright, I'll be there in 2 seconds. Pied Piper, test 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and log in. Alright, and we have our functioning chat. And bam. So we're coming pretty far along. And then also what we're going to do next is we're actually going to design 28 slots to display the information you're going to pick up. So the thing that we're going to do next, we're going to do some client work where we can click on that sword. It's going to send a message to the server. The server will add it to our inventory, and then once it does that, we will then populate it in our client's inventory. Alright, so that's what we're going to do in the next stream. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to go eat dinner, and I will maybe be back later. But otherwise, I'm trying to start streaming, every day or so, trying to get more involved with YouTube. Currently rebranding as Game Dev John for everything, so starting to get back into the hang of things. But thanks again, guys, for watching, and I will see you guys later.